Hello everyone and welcome to the October VETRI update. In this month's community update, we will focus exclusively on the tech development. Jakub Růžička, the CTO on our Prague team, will introduce you to the new team members on our tech team, talk about what has been achieved so far and what still needs to be done for the MVP release in April. For those of you who don't know Jakub yet, he joined us in June as CTO of our VETRI team in Prague. He's a software engineer specialized in data mining, machine learning, and ethical hacking. When he isn't working on VETRI, he teaches at Prague's Technical University. I'm excited to have him talk about our development progress today, especially because I know that he has a little surprise ready for you. So, enjoy!
Okay, so I'll jump right in these slides, and there are 4 basic points I would like to talk about during this tech update. The first one is the expansion of the developers team. So currently most of the VETRI development is actually happening in Prague, so I would like to introduce you to the guys who are currently developing the code base. Then we'll get to the ecosystem architecture, so I'd like to update you on the most important decisions that have been made since the white paper was created. Then I'd like to present you a general IT roadmap. So basically we'll structure it as things that have been already developed up to this point, which we basically try to share with you during the tech updates. Then what's in progress and what's planned in the future. And finally, there's a small surprise, but I'll leave the surprise till the end so that you actually keep listening. So let's start with the first point. This is the current team. This is the current team behind VETRI. Rather than listing positions, I've decided to list the components that guys are responsible for in the VETRI ecosystem. So just to take them one by one, first we have Michal Vodička. Michal Vodička was previously on Gamey, which is a game making company, and he's currently responsible for the interface for data consumers, so for the web application. Then there's Michal Dvořák, who's a super senior data scientist in CreativeDog, and his latest project, for example, include a neural network detecting car damage. His main responsibility in the VETRI ecosystem is the most data-heavy part of the VETRI ecosystem, which is the marketplace. Then we have Michal Černý. Michal Černý is a full-stack developer. His projects, for example, include YourPass, which is a solution for digitization of tickets and loyalty cards. And he's currently responsible for the data wallet, which is the mobile app that you already know. We've got Octavio. Octavio is responsible for data wallet as well. He works with Michal Černý, and currently he's mainly responsible for the background tasks in the data wallet. Then we have Martin Koptík. So Martin was previously developing an online crypto wallet, and basically now his responsibility is everything blockchain related. So he's a smart contract developer. And finally there's me. You already know my background from the blog article. My background is data mining, information security, and software development in Python and JavaScript. And my current responsibility on this project is basically making sure that everything works together, integrate the code, and make sure that the code reflects business requirements. I would like to also mention the extended team. As you've seen, you've got a pretty good chance being on the core team if your name is Michal. However, in the extended team we have also Michal Fikejs, who's a full stack developer, DevOps. We've got Jindřich Stiburek, who's full stack developer as well, Matěj Vaněček, who helps us with Scrum, Lukáš Kroc and Josef Jelačič, who are our advisors and who help us with problems we need to tackle. So that's about when it comes to the members, or when it comes to the new developers in the Prague VETRI team. And now I would like to get to a picture that you are used to from the white paper and tell you what has changed and what stayed the same. You're pretty used to this picture from the white paper. And even though we have more detailed technical diagrams, some of them are still under active development. So we plan to release them later once they settle down. But what I would like to present here is basically an update on the most important decisions that have been made, and I'll do it via description of the basic flow of data between the individual components or among the individual components in the VETRI ecosystem. So first, let's start here. Here we have the mobile wallet. And the mobile wallet is currently used by a user who we call data owner. Data owner's data currently sit in many databases of many services that he uses in his everyday life, or that he interacts with, or companies that he interacts with. And what he wants to do is basically take control over his data and also have the ability of monetizing them or getting his fair share on the data, either for research purposes or to institution he wants to support or for commercial purposes. The mobile application currently gives him so-called data plugins. And the data plugins basically allow him to obtain the data and store them in the VETRI mobile app. So the VETRI mobile app is not only wallet in the sense that it can store tokens, but it's also a wallet in the sense that it can actually store data. So what the data plugins basically do? Well, the data plugins either use some service like Facebook or Google, which have a pretty standardized way of obtaining the data, either via an API or via a zip archive. So they have already a procedure of actually generating your zip archive and meeting your data archive request under GDPR. But there are also other companies like loyalty card providers, like your insurance card provider or insurance provider, like your cell phone operator, etc. So we've tested those services as well, and it turns out that they also are required to provide you your data archive in electronic form within 1 month, right? So for example, I've tested it with IKEA, and basically IKEA within 1 month, or usually like after 2 weeks, sends you the archive of all of your transactions and also of all of the personal data that you can get from them. So basically what's stored in the wallet is your data that other companies currently manage for you. Okay, so that's about the data owner's part. But we also have the data consumer. And the data consumer is a company or another party which expects from the VETRI ecosystem fulfilling some needs, like getting an answers to a survey or obtaining data for market research or for data science purposes, so training some prediction model, etc. First, very important decision I would like to mention, and this is a huge difference between these two parties currently, is that so that the ecosystem actually starts up in a stable environment, we decided to fully decentralize the data owner. So his data is currently just on his mobile phone, nowhere else. So he's like pretty much decentralized unit. While on the data consumers end, we want to make sure that the data consumers currently meet some requirements from like given by the VETRI Foundation. So basically the VETRI Foundation screens and verifies each data consumer so that they can get in the ecosystem. We do that for the protection of the users, because at the very beginning of the system we don't want to be just a jungle of actors you have no idea about who they are. But we just want to protect the users from scam, and basically the way we do it, at least for the minimum viable product, at least for the first phase, is that the data consumer is using our web application, and via this web application he manages the data exchange requests. So data exchange request being either the survey or being request for a data archive, etc. To answer your question, like, does it has to be this forever? The answer is no. The answer is no, because both data consumers and also data validators we'll get to in a minute. basically can be decentralized. So we can just take the up down or take it offline, take it to their personal devices, and they can work the same as the data owner. But for the beginning, to make the system stable, to make it trustworthy, we've decided that VETRI Foundation currently gives approval to data consumers as well as to verifying parties. Okay, so one of the decision, however, let's continue with the flow. So the data consumer makes a data exchange request like something, I want favorite brands of men in their 20s to 30s who live in the Czech Republic. And I want to be sure about that they are really from the Czech Republic. So this is the data exchange request. I want favorite brands of men in their 20s to 30s who live in Czech Republic, and I want the information about their citizenship to be verified. Plus, maybe I want to fill them this questionnaire of like 5 questions or something like that. So in this like web management console or web application, he gets an audience estimate. He sets up a price he believes is fair for the data, or he actually gets one from the price discovery engine. And this request goes to some microservice that we currently call the marketplace. Also, on the blockchain level, there's already a prepared smart contract that the data owners can accept. And now, like one more important decision, basically the wallet requests data from the marketplace. So this arrow could be reversed because like the marketplace itself is totally blind. It has to be this way because the user has to keep anonymous, and the marketplace should know nothing about the data from the data owner, because the only party that's entitled to the data is actually the data consumer. This is currently run by the VETRI Foundation, and we as the VETRI Foundation like don't want to know anything about the data of the data owners. So the data wallet actually gets all of the current data exchange requests. The wallet evaluates the one that are relevant for the user, and once the user actually accepts the offer or accepts the data exchange request, he sends the data not to the marketplace but directly to the data consumer. And because he did it using a smart contract, as a response to sending the data, tokens get transferred to the data owner. The super important part, once again, the marketplace itself is blind. It's keeping the user anonymous. The only thing that might got actually released in this process is the IP address, but like the wallet can be hidden using a VPN, etc. So basically, currently the whole marketplace is blind, and the data exchange request happens peer to peer. We forgot one party, which is the verifying party. So for like EID Plus is here like listed rather as an example. It could be one of the ID verification provider, but it's not the only one. For the MVP or for the minimum value product, I'll also talk about this a bit later. We currently verify IDs only. So basically, there's some like verified by VETRI Foundation microservice, and before actually the user or the data owner can accept some data exchange request that actually requires verified citizenship, he also receives a digital signature from the verifying party. So basically he sends his ID card data to the verifying party, for example the VETRI Foundation, and the VETRI Foundation signs his data so that the data consumer can be sure that like the citizenship is really Czech Republic. So data validator is like any party who can verify your data, who can digitally sign them. So I think that this is it, or this is the basic flow, at least in a nutshell. And maybe let's like leave some of the very specific things till some extended discussion, either online, or I'll be more than happy to appear at the next meetup. but I think that this is good for at least the basic overview. Maybe just to introduce you to the technologies, like here we currently have React Native, and I'm pretty sure that we've already shared that during some of the tech updates. And here it's Node.js. Prototype of the marketplace was written in Scala, but probably we use that just temporarily. And basically the whole ecosystem revolves a lot around JavaScript, because JavaScript is currently for us the language that we can ship to multiple platforms. So we can just reuse the code base on multiple places. Okay, so to move on, let's go to the general IT roadmap. I've tried to be as specific as possible. I've just added 2 TBAs, like to be announced, for features that are yet to be announced in the future after their final specification. So like consider this being a surprise, but generally I've tried to list everything that's either finished or that we are currently working on or planning till the future. So to start with, what's accomplished? So we have the product specification, and we also defined the scope for the MVP. Because like the whole product could be super huge, but also the standard way we actually develop things is that we try to strip off all of the unnecessary functionality to the very core of the product, what definitely has to be there. And this is what we plan to deliver in April 2019. So basically it's a working app. It's an app that's already useful to the users, but it doesn't include all of the features that are planned for the final rollout in October 2019, right? So basically it's like to have the application as soon as possible, to actually test it on the market and get feedback, but then release the product with all of the planned features later in October 2019. So back to what's accomplished. So we have got the product specification, we've defined the MVP scope, we've got the first use cases, stories, and sprints. So we are we're basically going with the Scrum methodology, and we have some temporary UI or UX which will be redressed in the future. When it comes to the architecture, we already have APIs for all of the different components in the ecosystem, and we have some common data model for data owner, marketplace, and data consumer that basically integrates the whole ecosystem. We already have a prototype of the data wallet, which can actually which can actually store the data, encrypt them in the Realm database, and which can also store tokens. Even though that at this point we are not working with real valid tokens, we're just on the test network. We've got a small prototype of the data consumer interface, together with some authentication module and a simple endpoint for accepting data. And as I already said, we have a prototype of the marketplace, which is currently written in Scala, and it's basically a data exchange request service that pairs consumers to owners. And finally, we have a smart contract layer API for data owners as well as data consumers interface that we can reuse there. What's currently in progress is basically connecting the dots. So many of the components were already developed but are not yet integrated. Another thing that's currently in progress hugely is the data consumers interface. So what we want to add there is like management of the data exchange request, targeting, and also the planned audience estimates. We are currently also very heavy on DevOps, because we will very soon have our first prototype. So basically what we are doing is trying to basically separate the environment in like dev, staging, and production environment. We are also using Docker. We are trying to containerize our images to be vendor neutral, to basically have an option of moving out from a specific cloud provider. We are using Kubernetes for CI/CD pipelines. Currently, we are also trying to enforce some coding standards and doing mandatory code reviews, because basically the product will be finally open source. So we just want to make sure that the community won't be bothered with some very simple stuff that could be detected automatically. Last but not least, we want to make sure then that in April we are actually releasing a stable product, which means that most of the development has to happen either till December or something like early January, because then we want to devote a lot of time, as you can see there, to deployment, to testing, including like penetration testing, and doing or debugging everything that needs to be debugged to actually release a good application in April. Maybe to what's planned, and I think that I can pretty much follow the timeline here. We will have identity verification, we plan to standardize the data, we will add other data plugins, because currently we are working just with Facebook and Google. These are the first one that we've developed, and also we have a universal zip importer or zip file importer. We will add the survey feature, which will be huge. The targeting option I've already talked about, and also huge thing somewhere probably around here will be the UI or UX redressing. So that's about it. The other features are listed on the timeline. So once again, if there are any questions, just post them to us, and I'm happy to answer them. Okay. So now let's actually get to the most exciting part of this whole presentation. If you are paying attention, I've omitted 2 milestones, which are called private, and the first private milestone is actually POC. POC here stands for proof of concept. So to get around this is that as we are basically actively looking for partners, especially data consumers, and as we want to prototype fast, so not to devote time to things that don't matter for the MVP, we've actually decided to push ourselves a bit with the proof of concept of the application. So some parts might be mocked. For example, the no real wallet tokens get transferred, which I've already mentioned. But we want to prove that the basic flow in the ecosystem actually work, and also demonstrate the feasibility of the solution. So what we are planning to do is actually visit Web Summit and show some early prototype of the application to potential partners and receive the first feedback. So basically, like by the end of this month, we want to have a first prototype of the application. What's in the scope? Well, in the scope, you will have the data wallet or the mobile app. The data owner is able to download his data using one of the plugins that we have, which is Google and Facebook. Then on the other side, the data consumer is able to send some targeted data exchange request via the web interface. The data exchange goes to the marketplace. It's polled by the data wallet here. The data wallet finds the match between the request of the consumer and what's actually available in the wallet. And once the user accepts these data exchange requests, test tokens get transferred to him, and also his data get transferred to the data consumer. So this is the POC, and there's one more important thing to say, that basically this version is not available for public testing because a couple of things can change and the application is not yet fully tested, stable, or basically ready for release on the Play stores. But what we definitely plan to do is show you the current development version of the app, or show it to the community, to the investors on video or on screenshots sometime after the Web Summit. So that's probably the most important part of the presentation. We already have an app and we'll show it to you. Okay, last but not least slide. Basically, there's a huge movement currently around decentralization, control over one's data, and it's really gaining momentum. For example, Tim Berners-Lee, one of the fathers of the internet, recently announced Solid. So what I would like to say, super sincerely, is that I really want to thank to the investors and to the whole community around VETRI, because you are the ones who actually provided us with the opportunity to make VETRI happen. And working on VETRI right now is just super exciting for me. So thank you very much.